Alright, time to pull over and do another video. As you guys may have noticed, I do spend a lot of time in the car, apparently. It's, I guess, the easiest way for me to do these quick little videos. So I'm just sharing about another one of the passion projects or aspects of my channel. One of my passions is sharing my faith. That's been something that's very near and dear to my heart for a long time. I currently actually have a series of videos on a page managed by my wife, which is called L'amour in Christ, trying to uplift and encourage people. I've also been doing posts on all kinds of social media platforms to edify and inspire people. And I've been doing that one for years, probably like 4 or 5 years now, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, a bunch of different things. So from college to my career in the arts and working in the industry, one thing that my friends and colleagues have always said that they appreciated was my openness to share my faith and my willingness to hear theirs and have an open dialogue where we were able to have discussions, but they wouldn't turn into outright arguments or debates. Basically just having an open mind, but being transparent and sharing everything. And people have always appreciated that. So I feel like that's really one of the major reasons why I think it's important to share that on channels like this, because if you go around YouTube, there are plenty of debates happening. You go to Facebook, the same thing. People talking about faith and then people slandering them, or people talking about faith and talking down to other people, or just a lot of drama and fighting and arguing, which I don't really get into much of that. I just try to present facts. So I'm in the middle of putting together my testimony or my faith journey in a video, in a series, I guess. And I just wanted to share one of these short snippets with you guys today. So there's basically like 5 major points that I can kind of recall and go back to that made me kind of into the person I am today in terms of my testimony and my faith journey, whatever you want to call it. I guess the first one is I grew up in a Christian home, and from a young age always being around church and the Bible, and I guess accepting Christ at a young age too. So I grew up in a Christian home. Always being around the Word, being around the Bible, and going to church just about every Sunday. And I remember receiving Christ, I think it was maybe 3rd or 4th grade, around that age. And it was a real thing to me, just that it wasn't until I was, I think, a senior in high school that it became personal, because it was more, I don't know, obligatory. Gotta go to church, gotta do this, gotta do these things. And that's not bad, but it was just not my choice. And I don't think it became a choice until senior year in high school. So what ended up happening, kind of a series of events in high school, but I think they were doing a census at the time, and they had all these questions, and they were like, hey, what's your faith? What do you believe? Are you a Christian? And what's your denomination? Are you Baptist? Are you Methodist? Are you Catholic? Are you Lutheran? And it goes down all these lists, Protestant, whatever it is. And I was like, I know I'm a Christian, but where are all these titles? I don't even know what, do I identify with one of these denominations? Are we non-denominational? And that was one of the things where it's like, I went home and I was asking, like, what do we call ourselves? What do we believe? And the other thing was, in history class and science class, there's always these questions of like, well, dinosaurs were this, and we were all coming from evolution, and we were birthed out of a single cell organism, and we came out of the water, and we were monkeys, and those are our ancestors, and dinosaurs were around millions of years, so the earth is millions of years old, and all these different things. And it's like, what does that mean? Because I know I'm a Christian, I believe in the Bible, so how does this like relate to these things that they're telling me? And even like practical things like, oh, I went to a really bad school where there was always fights and riots and things. And I was like, what if I got in a fight? Which thankfully I never did. But the Bible says like turn the other cheek. So what do I do with that? Do I just let them beat me up? And is that what it means? A lot of the questions kind of came out in that time. So it was really a change in my personal life and how I lived and in my beliefs and everything. So at that moment, there was really a shift. It became my own faith. It became something that was my decision. And I decided to do the research, say, what do I believe? What does the Bible say about this? How do I reconcile evolution and creationism? What does it mean to turn the other cheek? And going through the list of all these different things. So that was a real turning point for me. In that moment, that's when I made the commitment to become a member at my church. That's when I got baptized and I took all these courses to really understand the faith and what I believe, because I didn't want it to be my parents' faith and everything that they believe is what I kind of hold on to. Like, God has children, but he doesn't have any grandchildren. Some people may have heard that before. Your relationship with God has to be a personal one, and it has to be one that you study or put the time in yourself. And that was the turning point for me with that. So going to college was next. I went to an art school, a 4-year art private college, and it was an interesting experience. It was definitely a shift from where I went to school at. The ethnic makeup, it was like the flip side of what I was going to school and what I grew up with. But also the beliefs and the faith of the people, teachers, instructors, and other students was very different. So with that, the environment was very hostile towards believers. It was a trying time, and I think it was a kind of a crucible or a trial by fire for my faith. And I'm glad I got grounded and really rooted in the Word and my beliefs before I went to college, because I know the majority of believers who go off to college and go away to school end up falling away from the faith or having a falling out. Because I've heard a lot of reports and studies that say the majority of believers who go off and go away to college end up falling away from the faith, and just in that environment it's very hostile and everything is kind of anti their beliefs and going against what they've been taught and trained, but they don't have the proper foundation to understand things in their proper place. So when their classmates or colleagues are telling them something, or their professor is teaching them something that they feel is contrary to their beliefs, then they're like, oh, so what I've been believing is completely wrong, and I just need to change my whole thinking and adopt these things that people are telling me. So for me, I was already rooted and grounded, so I took everything in its proper place and I found the right clubs to be a part of, and that really helped. There was a few other believers that I worked with and I studied with, and they really helped during that time. Now, graduating from college was another thing. Going into my professional career, there was a struggle to find my voice in terms of like, what kind of art was I creating? Was I creating like, oh, is it just gonna be Moses parting the Red Sea and it's a painting of this guy in a robe? And I went through a lot of different phases, like, cause my style was very dark and it was very not what people would consider like Christian art to look like. And I came to a realization a lot with me as a person, a lot with my beliefs and my art, was the titles sometimes are placed on things inappropriately, or people get stuck into, this is a Christian film, so it needs to look like this, or this is Christian art, so it needs to look this way, or this is Christian music, it needs to sound this way. And for me, Christian wasn't a genre. It was, this is a piece of art, or whatever it was, that's created by a person who happens to be a believer. I struggled for a while with figuring out what that was. That kind of helped me to be shaped into the person, the artist, and content maker, the influencer, the person that I am online. I share my faith openly. I follow the evidence and the truth and the facts where they lead, whatever the ramifications of them. And I try to talk and have discussions with people out of love and be very open to what their journey is and when I'm sharing. And I think that's what I want this aspect of the channel to be, sharing like personal things that I know people have struggled with as well, sharing my experience, sharing my history, my background, and how I dealt with things, how God has brought me through some crazy times, and really share that with people, because I know that I didn't have a lot of that growing up, but the ones and the times that I did, I always remember that being very helpful. So some of the art and things like this was one of the first major projects that started back in college. My graphic novel Revelation. This is another comic book I've been working on, and this was one of the first times where my faith and my creative and art style came together in a way that I felt was a good marriage, and I was happy with really what God did with that project, and he's still doing with that project. And that's like over 15 years ago that started, and almost 18 years now. That's one of the first times I've entered into what I felt was my voice as a believer, as a creative, and as a person. I'm looking forward to a lot of new projects and things like that come out. This series is one that I feel is important, and I do want to take the time to to put it out there. This is just a small snippet. There's not really a lot of time in this short period that I have for this video to share a lot of the accounts. There's far too many accounts to share in just this short one right here. But this is just kind of a little snapshot of some of the content in my testimony and things that I'll be sharing as that series to come. These were 5 benchmark moments, I guess, in my walk, in my life, that really set me in a path, in a direction that I've been on for over 20 years now. I mean, from that moment of change, it's been over 20 years. So I hope you guys get something out of this. I'd love to hear your comments below. And all these little clips of these types of videos that I'm doing, please share what you like, what things you want to see more of, what things you're interested in. I know my channel is kind of like over here, over here, over here. So let me know what you guys really are liking about it and what you want to see more of. So I have some more stuff coming after this. Keep watching.